So now we come to this week's sector expert, and I am delighted to introduce David Tyler, Associate Director and Water Sector Specialist at the EBRD. The EBRD stands for the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, and it's a public institution formed in 1991. The bank operates across multiple sectors and multiple countries, 38 at last count, I believe. And last year, the EBRD invested over 10 billion euros. Its aim is to help emerging economies move to becoming market economies. And it has the rather impressive strapline of, "We invest in changing lives." Now, earlier this week, David was interviewed by Dr. Ben Tam, Managing Director for ISLE UK. The full interview is available via the link you can see here. What I want to do right now is briefly share with you some of the highlights. Now, one of the first questions that Ben asked David was about the sort of work that the bank does to support the water sector specifically.
I think it's fair to say that the water sector has been a constant area of attention for the business and continues to do so. And often our work is very much about addressing legacy underinvestment, decades of underfunding in the sector, to enhancements, but we're particularly interested in pushing the agenda on more sustainable and green growth in that respect.
Ben and David then continued their discussion to talk about how the world has changed in the last 3 months. In particular, they discuss how it's become more challenging for the bank to deploy money due to restricted access to clients and consultants. However, the need for the bank's services has never been greater. And as we all know, utilities, especially those in developing and emerging economies, are wrestling with how they can cope with reduced incomes, restricted workforces, and all the other challenges that come with COVID-19. In the interview, David explains their approach to liquidity shortfalls and their recently launched solidarity package. They also discuss some of the things the EBRD is doing to support water investments specifically, and in particular how they prioritise those investments, be that for infrastructure or for capability building. It's all about how to support stronger water service provisions through the creation of stronger water utilities. My favourite question from Ben, however, was when he asked about innovation.
I mean, it's first worth mentioning, we're not alone in this, but we were one of the first institutions to release what's called our solidarity package. And in very simple terms, that's around 21 billion euros of investment available for emergency financing of working capital to supporting what's called our vital infrastructure support program. So investment that follows on from that sort of emergency capital support.
David goes on to talk about how innovation in the digital space can often lead to water utilities leapfrogging some of their challenges, using water meters as a great example. The interview ends with Ben and David discussing the forthcoming EBRD webinar. This is a 90-minute event that's being held on the 16th of July at 9 a.m. British summer time, not GMT. Now, what I like about this particular webinar is that it's trying to look beyond the immediate crisis at what sort of things can we collectively do to come out of this pandemic stronger. So let's go back to David one last time to hear him outline what the webinar will involve.
I'm delighted that we're going to have insight from, as I say, exemplar companies. We're going to have input from the private sector. We're going to have an operator from one of our companies, and we're going to have a regulator and a UK operator who are going to share their ideas about giving us that vision. How did they get to that point? How is that? How can we then take those ideas and create some stronger, more resilient systems going forward? And equally, how do digital solutions fit into that space?
So there you have it, a date to put in your diary. The details of the webinar will be available on the links that I'll circulate after this broadcast. Thank you, David. Thank you, Ben. All the best for the 16th of July.